"Madam, you must take off that neckpiece." The judge's voice boomed sharp and cold like the courtroom itself. "This room follows strict rules. No unauthorized ornaments allowed." Ella Anderson stayed perfectly still. She sat straight in the third row, her hands resting quietly in her lap. Her eyes were on the young sailor in front of the judge, a young man named Peterson, facing a ticket he couldn't pay. Ella was there to support him. The judge's words hung in the air, aimed at her, yet they felt strangely distant. The item in question lay against her plain red shirt. It wasn't a mere necklace. A light blue ribbon, sprinkled with 13 white stars, held a golden 5-pointed star. At its middle, an anchor, ringed by a wreath. It was the Medal of Honor. Judge Harrington, a man whose portrait graced the lobby and whose pride filled every corner of the room, gazed down from his high, shiny wooden bench. He pushed his glasses up his nose, a look of deep irritation on his face, as if shooing an annoying bug. "Madam, did you hear me?" he demanded, his gavel lightly tapping, like a woodpecker on old wood. "The bailiff will help you if needed." The bailiff, a large man with a gentle, weary expression, shifted his stance. He glanced from the judge's stern frown to the calm woman. He took a small step forward, then froze. Her quietness, her complete lack of fear or challenge, made him hesitate. He now noticed the fine details on the medal, how it caught the dull overhead light. It felt weighty, significant. "Your Honor," Ella spoke, her voice clear and steady, not loud, but reaching every part of the hushed room. "It is allowed." Her simple words seemed to make the judge even angrier. This wasn't just questioning his rules, but his understanding. Allowed by whom? "I am in charge here, and I say it is not. This isn't a parade ground, it's a place of justice. Now remove it, or I'll have you thrown out and charged with disrespect." The warning was plain. A chill spread through the room. Peterson, the young sailor, looked back at her, his face etched with fear. He started to speak, but Ella gave a small, barely noticeable shake of her head. This was not his battle. The judge went on talking, his voice growing louder with angry righteousness. "The court's honor is supreme. We can't have people showing up dressed for a costume party, wearing any bauble they please. It ruins the whole process." "Bauble." The word struck the air like a heavy stone. The bailiff slowly, unwillingly, moved toward her. He was a man of duty, always following orders, yet every gut feeling told him this was wrong. He saw the others watching from the gallery, families, lawyers, all staring intent. The room buzzed with a feeling he'd never known here. Not the worry of a judgment, but the dread of something sacred about to be dishonored. Ella remained completely calm. She made no move to argue or fight back. Her mind was focused inward, her breath slow and steady, a control she'd learned in places much harsher than this soft, air-conditioned room. She had faced armed men with deadly hatred in their eyes. This judge's small-minded bullying was nothing. It was simply, it felt like a failure of the very system she had pledged her life to protect. "Bailiff," the judge barked, his voice suddenly sharp, like a cracking whip. "Take away that forbidden item and remove this woman from my court. She's causing trouble." Forbidden item. The word was ridiculous. Ella's eyes moved to the American flag standing tall next to the judge's seat. She recalled saluting that flag on dusty bases, on the cold steel decks of ships, and at solemn memorial services. The judge saw fabric. She saw a vow. He saw metal on a ribbon. She felt the heavy truth of the lives it stood for. The bailiff now stood in her row. "Madam," he whispered, almost an apology, "please don't make this hard." Ella finally looked away from the flag and met his gaze. She saw his struggle, his embarrassment. She gave him a small, sorrowful smile. "Just doing your job. I get it." She didn't try to stand or take off the medal. She would not be part of dishonoring it. If they wanted it, they would have to take it themselves. She would make them fully own their deed. The judge, viewing her quiet refusal as the ultimate challenge, slammed his gavel. The noise cracked like a gunshot through the silent room. "I find you in contempt. I order your arrest." As the bailiff reached for her arm, the judge leaned forward, his face red with triumph and fury. That flashy neck piece of yours will be kept as proof of your disrespect. Flashy neck piece. The words ignited a firestorm. For a split second, the courtroom vanished for Ella. The stale air turned into the heavy metallic smell of blood and gunpowder. The judge's dull voice became the high shriek of approaching mortar shells. The blue ribbon on her neck was no longer soft silk, but the rough digging canvas of a first aid strap. As she crawled through broken concrete and sand, she felt a ghostly weight on her back. Not a bag but a person. A young Marine from Ohio, who had been laughing just an hour before. She remembered the frantic, desperate squeeze of her hands stopping his bleeding. The helicopter's blades stirring up a blinding cloud of dust. The constant shouts of radio codes and injury updates. The medal wasn't a symbol of triumph. It was a wound. It was proof of the immense price paid during one afternoon in the Helmand River Valley. A reminder of the 4 men who returned home because of her, and the 2 who didn't. Yet for all she had endured, the judge saw only an ornament. She saw shadows. At his small side desk, the court clerk David felt a cold sweat form on his brow. His fingers froze on the keyboard. David, 24, a Marine Corps veteran, had served 4 years as a radio operator. He'd been at a peaceful embassy, never seeing battle, but he was trained to spot certain things. He knew military ranks and medals. He knew the difference between an award for a group and one for an individual. And he knew with a certainty that chilled him to his core what that pale blue ribbon meant. He'd seen it in books. He'd heard the bravery stories read aloud by drill instructors until they were etched into his memory. He'd seen old photos of presidents placing that simple, holy object on heroes' necks. Now he was watching a self-important, clueless judge tell a bailiff to rip it from a woman's neck. His heart pounded hard against his chest. This was wrong. This was an insult to something deep and important. The judge's order to arrest her was the breaking point. David's training, his strong belief in order and respect for leaders, screamed inside him. There was a higher power than Judge Harrington, and it was being dishonored. While the bailiff paused, his hand hovering near Ella's shoulder, David's hands flew under his desk with frantic speed. He pulled out his personal cell phone. His thumb raced across the screen, his mind rushing through his contacts. Who do you call when the whole system is failing? He didn't have the Pentagon's number, but he had the number for his old company's master gunnery sergeant, from the Marines, a man now serving as a top enlisted advisor at the nearby Coronado Naval Base. It was a huge risk, breaking every rule he could think of, but he didn't care. He pressed call and put the phone to his ear, cupping his hand over his mouth and turning from the bench. Master Guns, it's David Cho, he whispered, his voice tight with urgency. Sorry to call this way, but you won't believe what's happening. The phone line went silent for a moment. Cho, what's wrong? You sound scared. I'm at the county courthouse. There's a woman here, a veteran. The judge is arresting her for disrespect. For what? David took a shaky breath. She's wearing the Medal of Honor. Judge Harrington keeps calling it a neckpiece. He just told the bailiff to seize it. The silence on the other end was complete, filled with shock and anger. When the master gunnery sergeant finally spoke, his voice had lost all its earlier easygoing tone. It was hard. It was firm. Give me the address and courtroom number. Now, David quickly gave the details. Keep low, Cho. We're coming. The call ended. David slipped the phone into his pocket, his heart still racing. He looked up at Ella Anderson. He had just started something big. He could only hope help would arrive in time. Master Gunnery Sergeant Reyes's call spread through the command centers at Naval Base Coronado like a brushfire. A master guns with 28 years of service doesn't make urgent calls for no reason. He skipped the usual chain of command, walking straight from his office to the base commander's chief of staff, a Navy captain busy with a planning meeting. Reyes cut in, a breach of rules so serious it stopped the meeting completely. Captain, we have a serious issue, Reyes said, his voice a deep rumble. A Medal of Honor recipient is being held in contempt by a civilian judge downtown. He's trying to take her medal. The captain's face turned white. He raised a hand to the speaker. Excuse me. He followed Reyes into the hallway. Are you sure? The clerk on site is one of my old Marines. He's sure. The wheels of the military machine began to spin with incredible speed. The captain made a call not to a subordinate, but directly to the office of the U.S. Pacific Fleet commander. The four-star admiral's aide, a young but bright lieutenant commander, answered. Her eyes grew wide as she listened. She quickly wrote a note on a pad, tore it off, and without an apology, entered the admiral's private meeting room where he was with a foreign Navy group. She placed the note face down on the shiny wood table in front of Admiral Thompson. He gave her a sharp, annoyed look before glancing at it. He read the note once, then again. The warm, friendly diplomat's expression left his face, replaced by a chilling calmness his staff knew meant serious trouble. The note simply read, MCPO Ella Anderson, County Courthouse, Courtroom 4B. Judge ordering medal seized. Admiral Thompson suddenly stood up. Gentlemen, please excuse me, he told the shocked guests. A matter of extreme national importance has just come up. We will need to meet another time. He marched out of the room, his aide right behind him. Get me her file right now, he ordered, and get my car. Tell the base commander and Master Chief Reyes to meet me at the courthouse, in full dress uniform. In the Admiral's office, Ella Anderson's service history appeared on a large screen. The aide gasped. The screen showed a display of incredible bravery, Navy Cross, Silver Star, 3 Purple Hearts, and at the very top, the official reason for the Medal of Honor, given for actions far beyond the call of duty. Her official picture showed a young woman with weary, wise eyes, a Master Chief's anchor on her uniform. Admiral Thompson stared at the photo. He recognized that face. He had been the battle group leader offshore when her unit came under attack. He had read the reports of her raw, unbelievable bravery. He had even signed the first suggestion for her award himself. This wasn't some distant hero. This was one of his own. Back in Courtroom 4B, Judge Harrington was enjoying his authority. The bailiff, stuck between a direct order and a deep feeling that this was wrong, had gently placed a hand on Ella's arm. Madam, you must come with me, he begged softly. This is my final warning, the judge shouted, pointing a finger at her. You will hand over that unapproved ornament as proof of your disrespect for this court's legal order. Refusal will lead to more charges. You are purposely blocking justice. He was so lost in his own power, so blind to the insult he felt, that he had gone too far. He was no longer just a judge upholding rules. He was a man demanding a hero give up her honor. To seize the medal wasn't just taking a piece of metal, it was trying to erase the immense sacrifice it stood for. The young sailor Peterson finally spoke up. Your Honor, wait, you don't know who she is. Silence, the judge thundered, banging his gavel again. One more interruption and you'll join her in a cell. It was at that exact moment that the large wooden doors at the back of the courtroom burst open. They didn't creak. They opened with a firm, clear thud that grabbed everyone's attention. Framed in the doorway stood Admiral Thompson. 4 shining silver stars gleamed on the collar of his spotless white uniform. On one side stood the base commander, a 2-star admiral. On the other, Master Gunnery Sergeant Reyes, in his Marine Corps dress blues, a striking splash of color and strict military form. Behind them, a quiet line of other officers and top enlisted personnel, including a female captain and a command master chief, filled the entrance. They didn't rush in, they walked, their steps even and measured, their black dress shoes making a soft, steady rhythm on the tiled floor. This sound was more powerful than any shout. It was the sound of resolve. It was the sound of an entire system arriving to defend its own. The whole courtroom froze. The judge's jaw dropped, his words caught in his throat. The bailiff quickly pulled his hand away from Ella's arm as if stung. Every head turned to watch the silent, grand procession move down the middle aisle. Admiral Thompson's eyes, a sharp blue, saw nothing else in the room. He didn't look at the flag, the bench, or the shrinking judge. His gaze was fixed on the modest woman in the 3rd row. He walked right past the barrier that separated the public from the court area, and stopped directly in front of her. The room became so still that the buzz of the ceiling lights seemed deafening. Ella looked up, meeting the Admiral's gaze. A brief spark of understanding passed between them. Then, Admiral Thompson did something that completely crushed what little authority Judge Harrington had left. He brought his heels together with a clear click. He raised his right hand in a salute so sharp, so exact, it seemed to slice through the air. An admiral, a 4-star officer, saluting a retired enlisted woman. It was the highest sign of respect, a tradition almost solely kept for one special award. He held the salute for a long, quiet moment before crisply lowering his hand. Master Chief Petty Officer Anderson, the admiral spoke, his voice a calm, deep sound that held more power than the judge's angry yells ever could. It is an honor to see you once more. He then turned his head slightly, not fully facing the judge, but making sure he was heard. For the court's benefit, he began, his voice becoming formal and strong. This is Master Chief Hospital Corpsman Ella Anderson, United States Navy, retired. The medal she wears is the Medal of Honor, given to her for exceptional bravery and fearlessness, risking her life far beyond the call of duty. The admiral took a step sideways, so he could see both Ella and the bench. On October 17, 2012, during an ambush in the Helmand River Valley, Afghanistan, then Chief Petty Officer Anderson's unit was trapped under heavy enemy machine gun and rocket fire. With 3 Marines gravely wounded out in the open, she left her safe spot without a moment's thought, and ran straight into the danger zone. The crowd was spellbound. The lawyers, clerks, and other onlookers. Everyone was listening, imagining the scene. David, the court clerk, felt tears fill his eyes. She used her own body to shield the first Marine while putting a tourniquet on his leg. The admiral went on, his voice steady. She was wounded by shrapnel while doing this. Ignoring her own hurts, she pulled that Marine to safety before rushing back into the gunfire for the second. While treating him, she fired her pistol at the enemy, keeping a machine gun nest quiet long enough for her team to regroup. She ran back a third time for the third man and was wounded again, this time by a bullet to the shoulder. Even with her injuries, she stabilized all 3 gravely hurt Marines and refused to leave herself until every one of her wounded comrades was safely on a helicopter. Her actions are directly responsible for saving the lives of 4 United States Marines. He paused, allowing the gravity of the tale to settle in the stunned quiet. The judge's face had turned from bright red to a pale, sickly white. The gavel lay forgotten on his desk. That bauble, the admiral said, his voice dropping to a dangerously soft tone as he finally faced the judge, is the highest honor our country can give a service member. Wearing it is not only allowed, it is encouraged by federal law. A law, I might add, that makes any unauthorized attempt to wear or buy this medal a federal crime. Your order to seize it was not just a terrible insult. It was an order to break the law. The scolding was total. Judge Harrington's public shame was clear for all to see. He cowered behind his bench, a small figure in a large seat. Ella spoke next. She slowly stood up, wincing a little from an old pain in her shoulder. She looked not at the admiral but at the judge. There was no triumph in her eyes, only a deep, tired sorrow. Your Honor, she said, her voice soft yet steady, I respect the rules of this courtroom. I respect the law. Rules are vital. I spent 3 decades of my life upholding them, but rules must be used with good sense and insight. They should not be wielded as a tool of unawareness. She paused, letting her words truly land. Don't lower your standards, just get better at seeing them when they are right before you. Her simple, elegant teaching was more crushing than the admiral's anger. It wasn't a scold, it was a piece of profound understanding from someone who had earned the right to share it. As she finished, another image quickly came to her mind, sharp and clear. Not the dust and mess of combat, but the hushed, respectful calm of the Oval Office. She saw the President of the United States, his face marked with deep respect, as he secured the blue ribbon around her neck. She remembered its weight then, how it felt both unbelievably heavy and light as air. She remembered the official words of her award being read, ringing through the silent, historic room. That moment, the peak of national thanks, felt a million miles away from this pathetic, poorly handled argument in a local courtroom. The sharp difference was a final, quiet sign of the vast gap between her world and the judge's. The consequences were swift and complete. Judge Harrington, pale as a ghost, stammered out a series of apologies. He dropped the contempt charge against Ella. He dismissed the speeding ticket for the young sailor Peterson with a shake of his trembling hand. The day's court sessions were suddenly called off. Admiral Thompson and his group formed a protective ring around Ella, guiding her out of the courtroom and leaving Judge Harrington to stew in the wreckage of his good name. In the coming weeks, the tale, though it never hit major news, traveled through the local law and veteran circle. Judge Harrington received a formal reprimand from the State Judicial Review Board. A new mandatory training course on veterans issues and understanding different cultures was started for all staff at the county courthouse. Rumors suggested the judge himself was a main driver behind this new plan, desperate to make things right. About a month later, Ella was shopping at the base store. As she pushed her cart down the aisle with canned foods, a man in plain clothes cautiously approached her. It was Harrington. Without his black robe and high bench, he appeared smaller, older, and deeply weary. "Master Chief Anderson," he said, his voice soft, completely lacking its earlier pride. Ella stopped her cart and looked at him. "Mr. Harrington," he swallowed, his eyes struggling to meet her. "I wanted to apologize once more. There's no excuse for how I acted. My lack of knowledge was immense. What I did was wrong beyond words, but I am still asking for your forgiveness." Ella observed his face closely. She saw real regret, a deep and hurting she thought of all the young service members she had guided over the years, kids who had messed up, sometimes badly. Her role was never to crush them, but to help them grow stronger, to improve. "What's done is done, Mr. Harrington," she stated calmly. "What truly counts is what you do next." "I heard about the new training course at the courthouse. That's a strong beginning." He finally looked up, a hint of relief in his eyes. "Thank you, Master Chief." "Thank you." He nodded, then turned and left. Ella watched him go, then continued her shopping. The struggle was finished. The lesson had been delivered, and perhaps, just perhaps, a tiny seed of insight had been sown where before there was only blindness. We hope this story of quiet strength inspires you to respect the service of all our veterans. Please like this video, share it with someone who should see it, and subscribe to Untold Valor Stories for more amazing tales of women in uniform.